Not only do these keyboards look fantastic, they also sound fantastic. But one thing about these keyboards that they have in common is the sound profile. They are more on the clacky and also loud and proud end of the spectrum. Check it out. And then you have something like this. This is the High65 by TD Studios. You probably remember them from the Hi-Finger 75, but now they're back and with a smaller 65% form factor keyboard that actually takes inspiration from a Leopold FC660. Overall, it's a very clean and minimal looking design with some obvious quirks, but the most interesting thing about this is actually the type of mounting style it employs. Well, it can pretty much employ it all. It can be top mounted, gasket mounted, and even tray mounted, but with a twist, or rather a cut. We'll be covering that more in detail, so let's get started. Overall, the Hi-65 comes in this nice TD Studios box with some nice and creative graphic design on the top. Let's open this up and see what's inside. This board will be on group buy shortly, so if you decide that you want to pick one of these up, check out the description below. First, you have the Glacier TKL situation here with the, do you want some keyboard with all that foam? I mean, it comes with thick and thin plate foam. It also comes with thick and thick case foam. Then the under PCB foam, and yes, the ubiquitous PE foam. Despite the Hi-65 having so much foam, this is all optional. I'll touch upon that way later. Next, you got the PCB. It's a nice and blue PCB with the usual KO hot swap sockets. What's interesting is that at this price point, the Hi-65 actually does not feature any per key RGB. So I think that was an intentional decision to keep this pretty much looking classic. The only area where the Hi-65 PCB has some RGB is actually below, that is used to light up the logo. At this point, most will discount this as a typical PCB, but then you get this. You realize pretty quickly that rather than having flex cuts, this PCB has something else, leaf spring cuts for tray mounting. Ooh, this is exciting. I really wonder how this will be. Finally, you got a little tiny indicator LED here for the caps lock, and I'm really a sucker for these little details, so I thought this was pretty cool. As mentioned before, the Hi-65 can take 3 different types of mounting styles, so I got all 3 different types of plates. First one up is the aluminum top mount plate, nice and silver anodized. Then I have the PC gasket plate with the tabs built in for the gasket foam. Finally, I have the PC leaf spring tray mount plate as you can see right here. For the PC plates, you can see all these flex cuts built in order to allow for maximum deflection. Then you got some hardware like the USB daughter board, some mounting hardware, an additional pour-on foam, and some Allen key. Moving on to the case, I have here the off-white version. I feel like this is pretty standard white, but that's what the official name of this color is. The overall design is so clean and classic, I really like this. The E-white job was pretty nice actually, with very nice and smooth finishing and absolutely no imperfections or visual issues. Given that this keyboard is modeled after the Leopold FC660M, you get these additional details like the 2-button cutout right here, as well as the caps lock indicator light built in as I mentioned before. Under the case is pretty standard with large rubber feet integrated into pretty much to keep things very clean. I do wish these were white or off-white to just kind of blend in with the case. And now, a good look at the weight. So the standard configuration for the Hi-65 is this polycarbonate weight with the logo. Remember what I said about the PCB having a downfiring RGB set? Yep, if you do use this weight, this entire logo will light up, so it's pretty cool. And this is how it actually looks from the top. And overall, this is a fairly easy job to remove with just 4 different screws. But if you do want to add some visual flair, this is the weight you want to go with, the brass. This optional weight not only weighs more, but against this white case, I think it looks fantastic. In case you're wondering what the points of these weights are, let me show you. It's not just there to just kind of make things heavier or add to the visual aesthetics, which they do, but that's not all. These weights actually really help to control the case resonance as well. Typically, different materials have different resonant frequencies. By combining different materials, they tend to work against each other, so it also helps to cancel out and reduce unwanted resonance. Check it out. As you can see, most people don't realize, but a insulating material like PC does a really good job of working against the resonance of aluminum. Brass also does a good job, but if you want to really kill case ping, I feel that PC does this work better. But in this case, I noticed immediately that it's a very dense and low sounding case. There's really no case ping at all. It's a very heavy sounding case. So due to this, I decided that it doesn't really need this PC weight, so I decided to go with the brass. Also, I'm a sucker for this white and gold combination, so it was no contest. Now we move on to adding the USB daughter board as you see here. Then, remember the extra poron? Yup, you use it to fill in this cavity. I was told that in the future, TD Studios was looking into making this board be wireless Bluetooth with a battery pack also, so that actually would be very nice. Then I went ahead and filled the case with all the foam provided. I mean, if this was an intended application, I have to try it out and see, right? Then you add the brass standoffs like you see right here to the PCB so that it connects with the plate. For this build, I am using the owl stabs. I feel that these are actually just better than the Duroc V2s. They're more consistent and doesn't require holy modding, so it takes away a step that I need to do. So I decided to pretty much move on to these for good now. Here is another look with the stabs installed onto the PCB. Then I added on the PE foam layer, then the thick plate foam here as well. For the first build, I want to show off the top mount configuration. Overall install was easy with the exception of this. My sample had metal shavings stuck inside the upper screw holes, probably from when they tapped the threads. This caused 2 of my screws to actually shear off completely, but fortunately this plate is held down by 10 screws, so 8 worked out fine. So something they really need to work to fix for production. I decided to go with some lubed Aquaking V3s because everyone kept asking me, why don't you try Aquaking V3s? So here they are. The icy look of them work really well with this white case and the silver plate, so I am really happy with the aesthetic. Finally, given the white background, I wanted some keycaps to make this thing pop, both visually and in sound, so I went with the GMK Mitolet keycaps. Speaking of GMK, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Drop. I've tried many different types of caps of various materials and designs, but at the end of the day, I find myself just drawn to cherry profile and especially caps from GMK as my primary choice. The reason is for the countless color collaborations, the vibrant colors, ultra crisp legends, and the unique glassy sound from GMK ABS. The only issue is that when you hop on a group buy, you gotta expect to wait up to 2 years. Or buy it in the aftermarket for some crazy prices, which they both suck. That's where Drop comes in. As you can see here, I have various GMK sets that I bought from Drop, and I bought all of these on my own for the immediate shipping and no wait at all. Drop works with GMK at much higher volumes, so they're able to get priorities that smaller group buys just cannot. In addition, Drop currently has over 7 GMK keycap sets in stock to ship right now, and if you act before February 13th, they're offering up to 30% off on select colorways as you can see below, including this ultra purple GMK Mitolet that you actually have seen on my High65. I don't think honestly you can get GMK keycaps for any cheaper than this. Check out the description below for the links and details. Alright, now that we have the striking High65 built in this top mount form, let's do a quick flex test on the top mount. Yep, as expected. Top mount got no flex, but what about the sound? Well, let's check it out. If I were to describe how this board sounds, it's heavy and smooth Thock. The near vault-like case and all the foam really creates a dense sounding board, and even with the PE foam layer installed. If you're looking for that thick and heavy sounding board, this pretty much is it right here. One interesting thing to point out is the layout of this keyboard. It's unique. As you can see here, the bottom row is kind of like Sengen, but instead of a 7U spacebar, it uses a 6.25. It's also missing the rightmost control key as well. In addition, the right shift isn't a 1.75U or even a 2.75U. It's actually 2.25, which means that you need 2 of the same 2.25 shift keys to make this keyboard work. Luckily, GMK sets actually do have that. Alright, but you know, the one mounting style that got me really excited is actually this next one, the leaf spring tray mount. Typically, when you think of tray mount, you think low-end boards with stiff typing experience and just terribly uneven sound. So, I first tried this thing out with all the lower standoffs to see how it was, and I could tell you, don't do it. Even with the lip spring cuts, it's very stiff to just too many standoffs, right? And the sound and feel are both just uneven. However, if I know a thing or two about tray mount keyboards, leaving the center area open is the way to go. So doing so, I realized that by just using the outer 4 standoffs with this leaf spring mount, it definitely improves the overall feel as well as the sound. So here I went with the same Aquaking V3s again and with all of the provided foam. And this time I'm using GMK Blue Samurai. Overall, it's not as bouncy as a gasket mount keyboard, but it does give it that firmer flex and more solid feel. This is kind of like the middle of the road mount, but how does it sound? This mounting style was interesting, but I feel like if you do buy this keyboard, 90% of the people will probably go with the gasket mount. Unfortunately, my sample was missing the pour-on gasket, so I had to use some from my old D65. But you know what, they worked out fine. So for the first run, I kept all the foam inside as before, so you can kind of get a back-to-back comparison on the different mounting styles without any of the other variables changing. I'm still using the same Aquaking V3s, and this time, GMK Hennessy caps with a red escape key accent. I think this right here looks so super clean. Overall, the gasket mount sounds like, well, gasket mount. It's highly dampened and the sound is a little bit more muted. This is where the foam comes in, or rather, out. As mentioned before, this case seems like it was designed to sound as dense as possible. That means it really doesn't need all that foam. So I decided to keep the plate foam and I removed the under PCB foam and also the super thick case foam, and I just put the thinnest case foam in on the bottom only. This ended up also with the side effect of maximizing flex, so check this out. The deflection on this is pretty crazy. I could literally go left and right and creates like a little wave if you really wanted to do that. Overall, a very soft typing experience. But what about the sound? As expected, removing the foams helped to open up the sound profile a little bit more and make this keyboard sing a bit more as well. And yes, I realized that Aquakings are also a more quiet switch, so I was wondering, if you put louder switches in here, can the High65 also speak louder? Well, let's find out. Yup, with the Holy Pandas, the keyboard still retains its low and thocky sound profile, but it definitely ups the volume. I decided that this is pretty much how I wanted to run my High65. So overall, what is this keyboard all about? Should you even consider joining the group buy? Well, it depends. If you want to get this for the multiple mounting styles, I would say stick with the top mount or the gasket. The leaf spring mount is okay, but it doesn't quite offer the sound of the top mount or the flex of the gasket. It's in the middle, but it's kind of like the jack of all trades, master of none kind of deal. So this really shouldn't be the reason why you get this High65. If you're looking for a classy looking keyboard with high quality design and finish that draws from like a classic Leopold, and or you're looking for a case design that emphasizes the really dense lows, then this is probably something right up your alley. I would say gasket mounted, take all the foam out and maybe just keep the plate foam, and then some Thocky switches like inks or bobas, you'll end up with a deep and thick sounding board with actually crazy amount of flex. So I hope this video kind of helps you formulate your own decisions whether you want this or not. But if you liked the video, hit that like button. If you loved it, please subscribe and I'll have more content for you in the future. Thanks.